Welcome in to Will Gottlieb's Worst Nightmare, a show hosted by me, Big Dave. Follow me at Ball Sports. Welcome in, y'all. CHGO Bulls podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Use that promo code CHGO to play, save some money, and make some money all at the same time, man. As I said, that is the aforementioned Will the Goat Gottlieb at Will__ Gottlieb. Our guy on the ones and twos is our guy Kevin, holding us down behind the scenes. Will, sir, how are you?
I'm great, but I'm a little offended. Why do you keep saying that this is my worst nightmare? All I want to do is have a pod with just Will and Big Dave. We finally get our chance, and now
it's been the running gag since it started.
It has been the gag. Yes,
it's fun.
As long as we're clear that it's a
for
gag.
Me to do now. Yes, we are clear to gag. This is nothing to do with Will.
I don't want the people thinking that there's some sort of beef between us. Could not be farther from the truth.
No, of course not. Of course not. Of course there is not, sir. But yes, it is fun for me to do. It makes Will smile. It makes me smile. So that's how it rolls. But coming up on this show, we got a full jam-packed show for y'all, man. We're going to discuss this article the great and the always positive Joe Cowley wrote. We're going to break some of that stuff down. And also, Professor Gottlieb wants to break down some of the new rules in the CBA that he feels you guys should know that can impact the Chicago Bulls going forward. And of course, we're going to talk about game 2 of the NBA Finals. But first, Will, sir, how was your weekend?
Weekend was good, although I have a sneaking suspicion it was not as good as yours and Matt's in Denver, hanging for game 1 at the DNVR bars. But for me, just chilling. Got a chance to watch the first game and hang out with some friends in town. And then last night, the Heat come climbing back. That was a crazy game. I can't wait to dig into it. But I want to hear about Denver. How's that?
Oh man, well, it was fun. Well, Matt is still there to let you know how much fun it is. Matt is still there. Matt went for game 1 and game 2. So yeah, he's had a great time. I guess we'll find out what game 2 was like. And seeing that, big comeback, even though they took that L, see what that was like there. But I can tell you this, man. I got there I got there Thursday, about 3 hours before game time. And I went and stayed in Matt's friend's apartment, went and met Matt over there. Shout out to his boy, man, who said he loves me and I can stay in his place anytime I want to. Appreciate that. But we got there, left, went in to the bar. Saw Brandon immediately. And man, it was just honestly cool because people kind of already knew us, which was also kind of awesome. So just random,
even people in Denver?
Even people in Denver. It was like, wow. Hey, what's up, Big Dave? What's up, man? So they kind of
world famous Big Dave.
No, they just kind of knew us, man. They just kind of knew us. And we went upstairs with the DNVR crew where they were doing their show, and that's where we kind of watched the game from because it was jam-packed, as they say, to the gills. It was packed in that place, and they have a decimal reader for sound there now. When it gets really loud. When it was before the game, it was at 96. When the game hadn't even started, and it was at 96.
Which is like 10 points above the level of like healthy, like the max that you would want so that you don't have ear damage.
Exactly, man. And that's just people humming. That's just the hum of the crowd. So as the game went on, it definitely reached some real high, ridiculous levels. But yeah, Matt and I were also able to jump on the show. They were doing a live stream during the game, and Matt and I got an opportunity to jump on, talk during the game. And shout out to those DNVR guys, man. Shout out to my guy Kale on production also. But it was a lot of fun, man, just meeting all these people, who really just love DNVR. Like, it just kind of reaffirms what we're doing here when I go and see stuff like this. And that love is truly genuine. It is truly real what they have down there, man. And I can't wait to continue to grow it here in Chicago because it's something really, really special. But I'll tell you, Will, I had a great time. And the reason I had a great time is because I missed my flight. That lets you know that I had a great time because I missed my flight coming back. Woke up when my flight was taking off, and bought another one right there on the spot. And that one was leaving in probably another hour and a half. And so when I got there, probably a good hour to go. I got, you get very confused in the Denver airport because I don't always, not that it's huge. It's confusing because I'm not used to having to take a train to my terminal once I get there. So the TSA line was like something to see Star Wars. It was insane. Like, it was super long. And I thought I was going to miss my flight because I had walked around for 40 minutes, people sending me different places. I was completely lost. Walked around for 40 minutes, got in that TSA line. It was super ridiculously long, but it went fast. So I was able to get through that. And when I got on that train, I'm telling people, I got to go. So people are being nice, getting out my way, you know what I'm saying? Because I got to make moves. And I got off that train with about 2 minutes till they were closing the doors. And my gate was like C37. My gate was like C37, which is usually 37. You think it's going to be down the terminal. It literally was the first one when I got off, which made it even easier for me to make it. So got there in time. Got there. I made it, sat in economy, Will. I sat in economy.
Did you survive? You're still alive, so it must have been all right.
It was, and I sat in the middle.
No.
I sat in the middle on economy, man. I haven't done that. I don't know how long, bro. It's been a long time since I've done something like that. Oh, man. But yeah, I made it. I got there. I got back, then came back and sat in traffic for about an hour and a half to get home. So that was fun too. So yeah, it was all in all. That just lets you know the kind of fun that I had if I'm missing flights, because I had a great time.
Were you up at 4 a.m. chugging 3/4 of a bottle of wine on your way out the door, or no? that was just a one-time deal.
Yeah, that was a one-time deal. That was just for you. That was just for Paris. But
I didn't want to miss it. I didn't want to miss another one of those because that was.
Hey man, I did a Denver imitation of it. I guess you could say it like that, man. But a lot of people were friendly. We went to a couple of spots and hung out, man. I got to take a picture in front of that mural. Have you seen that mural of?
No.
There's a mural of Nikola Vucevic and Jamal Murray that just got put up a few weeks ago.
Vooch or Jokic?
I'm sorry, Jokic. Excuse me, of Joker.
It'd be weird if there was a Vooch mural.
It would. That would be very, very, very confusing. But yeah, Joker and Murray have their own mural, and it's really cool. Honestly, it's a really cool mural, man. And everybody's kind of taking pictures in front of it. So I got to take a picture in front of that, man. And shout out to RG. Obviously, was taking those photos. Shout out to Eric, man. He was there too. Man, everybody was in the house, man. Ali, RK was there. Like, everybody was there represented, man. So much love to Denver, man. Got a lot of love for that city, man. Appreciate the fact that y'all love us. Goat, we got to get you out there, bro. You got to come through
soon enough.
Place, man.
Soon enough.
Just one time, dog. But go ahead.
I just want to know, like, what is the bar like? What is the scene? Does it make you feel a little, I don't know if envious is the right word, or just like excited for if and when CHGO ever gets a bar? Like, what was that experience like to actually have not only the studio in the bar, but just the environment at the bar?
Yeah. It would absolutely make you want this here. Like I said, it reaffirms what we're kind of doing here, but just to see it packed like that and to see people, everybody's got on a DNVR or something, and just how, jacked up the crowd was for the game, just the yelling, the hollering, and the screaming of it. The fact that the show, it's instant reaction when you're doing a show like that, because, you're taking all your emotions, that stuff's happening right there, and you're putting it right there on screen immediately. There's no waiting around for it. Like, it's immediate because it's right there. So you would lose your mind, Will, honestly, seeing something like this. And the food is amazing. The salmon burgers are off the chain, sir.
They made it special for you.
Special. Oh, they have it on the menu. They got it right on the menu, man. It is awesome, man. You would love this place. I can't wait to have one of those places in Chicago, man. But it's really a special place, man. And like my man said, right off of Colfax, it's there. But yeah, I can't really put in the proper words for you, because it's more of a feeling and an experience when you kind of go out there. But just know that when you see all those people and everybody has the same mindset, which is they are there for the Denver Nuggets and they are there for DNVR. Everybody had that same mindset. So just the love that came out of that was just amazing. Honestly, it was like being at the stadium watching the game, bro. Seriously.
That's so cool. Yeah. I also think, the Bulls are obviously nowhere close to as good as the Nuggets right now. And just to have, especially in a small market team that's relatively homegrown, to have that sort of team competing at that high of a level with the homegrown superstar playing and winning game 1 of the NBA Finals. That I cannot imagine what that would feel like, especially for a team that they've never been to the finals before.
Right. So it was a lot of those conversations too that I had with fans, because I remember when the Bulls had their first one. Like, I remember how that felt, even though I was a shorty, but I still remember how that felt. But just talking to people who were talking about that, like that being their very first time, and how they never thought stuff like that would ever happen to them, seeing stuff like this, and the fact that not only that they're there, but they have a real shot at winning it all. You know, they're just not satisfied being there. Like, they have a real opportunity to win it. It gives you a whole different kind of buzz, man, a whole different kind of feeling. And yeah, just the sheer joy of just the people. And we put up a lot of pictures. I'm sure Matt put up a lot too, you know, on his IG. We put up some on our accounts, on the CHGO Bulls account, on my Instagram. We put some stuff up, man, but just to try to give people an understanding of what that feels like, of just wall to wall packed, people yelling and hollering and screaming. You know, it's kind of like, you know, going to see the GOAT. You know, it's just people just that pumped up and jacked and ready to see it. You know, like, it was like that.
They do the starting lineups at Bulls games, and then they also do the starting lineup for media, and I'm always last. From Chicago.
At guard. He's
riding
a
bench.
But nobody's gonna draw up that play like you are, sir. But man, dude, it was great, honestly. And just hearing people's insight on another team, you know, just how detailed they are. You know how you're super detailed, you know, when you're talking about these Chicago Bulls. Just hearing, you know, other regions being just as detailed when you're talking to their writers, you know, when they're talking to their on-air personalities, and just how super detailed they are when speaking about their team. Like, it's deeper than just, we're here for Joker, you know. These are Nuggets fans, bro. Like, they're going back to Alex English and David Thompson and stuff like that. Like, they're going way back. And Kiki Vandeweghe, you know, like like they've been around for a long time.
Yeah, David Thompson, Alex English in the building yesterday in game 2.
One question from Thompson rocking the DNVR stuff.
I did, yes.
Go ahead.
He's a truther. I just see Larry in the comments asking about the altitude. How was that for you?
Oh man, you know what? I think it messed with me because I kind of had my allergies are messed up now. They were messed up yesterday, and now
dude, the tree pollen this time of year is killing me.
Yeah. It slapped me across the face when I got back here. I promise you that.
I'm gonna be in softball tonight, just sneezing in my outback. That'll be.
Well, that's just gonna give you extra strength to take that joint over the wall. That's all that's gonna do, Will. That's all that's gonna do. Just elevate that greatness.
If there was a wall to hit it over, I'm sure I would get it nowhere near it.
But man, dude, like, but everybody's really nice.
Kevin's producing today. He's on part-time CHGO, part-time GN who we're playing tonight.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what he's gonna do.
Trojan horsing it right now in the production room right now.
Yeah, put in the comments who I should play for.
Yeah, man. Like, I want to know. Like,
make a poll, Kevin.
Whose love is stronger? Who does he love more?
Yeah, I know. Who's paying these bills? Who's throwing me the bag? Come on.
Who's tossing Big K the bag? Because that's who he's going. Wait, but can you play like that, kid? Were you a part of it last year when they won?
I was. Yeah, I've been a GN for 2 years, full time there. That's my main gig, and then I'm here part time. I'm here about once or twice a week. So that's
Okay, so they'll understand.
Those are my boys over there. I don't know if I can quit on them.
All right, it's not quitting. You still playing?
You could be. You know
who's
how
gonna play me higher in the lineup tonight? Maybe I'll make Carm make me the cleanup hitter or something.
There you go.
You know how, like, you're playing in gym class, you'd have like an uneven amount of people in flag football, and somebody just has to play all-time offense. That's what you should do. You just be batting the entire time.
I'll have like the GN jersey on, the CHGO underneath it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Up them both.
That's right. I like how you did that, like Superman. You already knew how you were coming in. You already knew how it was going.
Dwight Howard, Superman.
This is not his first time doing that. I promise you.
I wouldn't get it close to the wall either, though, Will. I'm with you. I can hit a little bit, but some of these guys can hit it all the way to the street. It's crazy. That's not me. Man. I'm a single double guy.
Oh man, it's gonna be a tough.
I'm gonna hope I don't pop it out guy.
He's good in the outfield though. Wait till you see him in the outfield, man. Wait till you see young Maverick in the outfield. flying around making these catches. It's going to
Game one was not my night. I'll try to pull it together for tonight.
He'll try to pull it together.
I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear.
All right, y'all. Let's take this break, man. When we come back, we're gonna get into the aforementioned article by Joe Cowley about what's going on with the Chicago Bulls in this offseason. And like I said, Professor Gottlieb wants to school the class on the new CBA rules, and we will get into game 2. But first, as you all know, while I was out in Denver, I also went and I got a call, and I tried to meet up with my man, Baby Joey. I tried. It was just too busy, too hectic. He told me he was at DNVR bar. Then when I got there, he said you were too late. He had to go to Ball Arena. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, why are you going to Ball Arena for, man? And he was like, well, I'm doing the national anthem. And I was like, wait, what? You singing now? And he was like, well, we'll see how it goes, man. So I hope he did a great job. I didn't get to see the national anthem, but regardless if I didn't or not, the only thing I know is he never understood. Never got it. He just don't get and understand why these sunglasses cost so much money. He don't get why putting a pair of these premium polarized shades on your face costs so much. But guess what? He didn't get it. And you know who else ain't get it? Shady Rays. They ain't understand. Look at them right there. So you can get you a pair of them right there. Those premium polarized shades at an affordable price, and get them with Shady Rays. The independent sunglasses company offers that world-class product. It's just as good as any expensive pair that you have ever put on your beautiful face. The durable frames, the extremely clear optics for your outdoor, and as the GOAT is proven this time, your indoor adventures. But that's not all. They got what I like to call the Matt Peck lost and broken replacements plan. Let's say he get angry while he was out there in Denver. I can't see how, because it was an amazing place. But let's just say he was angry and he tossed his hat and the glasses were on there and they break. Well, guess what? Shady Rays will send him a brand new pair, no questions asked. But also, let's say you had on some glasses and you had on the pair that Will had up, and you were like, man, those look cool. Let me put them on my face. And you realize you don't look like the Maverick. Oh, just upset. Can't do it. Well, then send back that pair. They will send you a brand new pair of the style that fits you the best. And as long as you do it within 30 days, it's free, y'all. It's no risk to you. And they always got your back. So, exclusively to the listeners out there, Shady Rays giving away their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com. Use the code CHGO. Get yourself 50% off of 2+ pairs of premium polarized shades. And try it for yourself. The shades that are rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Because it's Shady Rays, y'all. Where the Rays are oh so shady.
And while you got your polarized premium shades on, you're going to be trying to hit the ball out of the park this baseball season at DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can place a $5 bet and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, all customers can take a shot at bigger payouts with the DraftKings stepped up same game parlay. All you got to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up with the very familiar promo code CHGO. And new customers can bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Promo code CHGO only on DraftKings Sportsbook. And Dave, Matt's not here to hit you with the DraftKings pick of the week, so I'm going to get it covered for him.
Oh, go pick of the week. Let's do it.
And even though this is a baseball ad, this is a Bulls podcast. This is an NBA podcast. So I'm gonna swing it back to the NBA Finals for my pick of the week. And right now, we've got a DraftKings Sportsbook Nuggets -2 to win in Miami. And they opened up at -1.5. The line is moving further away. I know the Heat just won. I know people are very excited about how they won despite Jokic scoring 39 points or whatever it was.
41.
But I'm 41 points. I'm going with Nuggets -2 right now at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's -2.5 at other sportsbooks. So jump on this before the line gets pushed even further towards the Nuggets. The Heat are not going to shoot 19 of 20 on threes again, I don't think. So I feel pretty good. The narrative swings back and forth, but I think the Nuggets are the better team. I still think Nuggets in 5. I'm going Nuggets -2 for this week. So make sure you sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook using promo code CHGO for $200 in bonus bets if you bet just $5. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of the Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Opt-in and 10-plus leg required for 100% boost. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/baseball terms.
DraftKings. Studious. Take a breather, sir. Let that man breathe, man. Let that man take a breather. And let me talk about these Chicago Bulls real quickly, y'all. Our guy, the incomparable, the always lovable and always positive, our man, Joe Cowley. I forget, what does he call himself? Mr. I forget what he calls himself, man, but that is our guy, Joe Cowley, man. Mr. Positivity around here.
Mr.
But
Positivity.
he wrote a recent article on the Chicago Bulls, man. Basically saying that blowing this thing up is not an option for this team, and that waiting on Lonzo Ball to come back is definitely an option on this team. Thank you, Kevin, for that. There you see a quote from there. Project blow up is not an option, according to Karnisovas, who seems fine with staying on the path of continuity. The organization is content to hold out and hope for a miraculous Lonzo Ball recovery from 3 surgeries on his left knee. While beginning negotiations on Nikola Vucevic's contract extension over last week, the Bulls are looking to lock up the big man for the next 3 years. Will, when I read this, if I didn't have, I guess, a thinking mind, I would immediately thought that the Bulls are not going to do anything at the point guard position and would just wait for Lonzo Ball to make this recovery. But then I thought, well, of course they're going to wait for him to make a recovery because they just want to believe in him. But I don't think that's going to stop them from doing anything. But I think the biggest part of this for me, Matt, was the Nikola Vucevic contract extension. And they're looking to lock him up for over the next 3 years. How do you feel about that, Will? Is that kind of the norm about how his contract you thought was going to go?
Okay, so yeah, I think there's kind of 3 things that we can break down out of this. And Kevin, can you pull it up just one more time? Because I want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. So the first part is the organization is content to hold out hope for a miraculous Lonzo Ball recovery. We've talked about this, and I think that is fine if you're going to hope for him to recover. Like, you can still try to hope for the best, but at the same time, you have to expect the worst. And I think they're in a position right now where after almost 2 full seasons, after a last resort surgery on his knee that all reports have indicated that might hold him out for all of next season, you do have, even if you like hope that he will come back at some point, you still have to have some sort of backup replacement plan. And maybe that is Kobe, maybe it's Io, maybe it's somehow trying to find a way to hang on to Patrick Beverley. I'm not sure any of those are like a great answer, but to just hope for Lonzo, I think is, you know, we've talked a lot about that, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. I think it's probably, as long as they're, like I said, they have the right to hold out hope, but they also have to have a backup plan.
Correct.
And this is not necessarily saying that they don't. So I don't want to read too much into that part of it. They still have to hold out hope. The second part of it is the contract negotiations with Vooch that started last week. We talked about this and why it's not that surprising. They've got until June 30th to sign an extension. After that, he becomes an unrestricted free agent where the Bulls can still re-sign him and they can go over the cap to do so as they still have his bird rights. But an extension would be something that would prevent him from getting into free agency. And I think the extension piece is interesting too, if you look at it, because, there's a couple of reasons. One, if Vooch is going to go ahead and sign an extension, I think you have to also assume it's because there's not really a lot of other good options out there for him. Right. And so, you think about it in terms of money, you think about it in terms of teams that have cap space, you think about it in terms of teams that have a need for his skill set. Probably not a lot of great options out there. There's teams like the Magic, the Spurs, the Rockets that aren't very competitive that he probably wouldn't want to go to. There's teams like, the Clippers or the Lakers, for example, that could be interested in his services, but couldn't really figure out a way to acquire him unless there was a sign and trade. And that brings me to another key part here, which I tweeted about this weekend, but there's more important stuff going on. So I'm sure nobody saw it. But the Bulls can pull off an extend-in trade. That is a possibility where they sign an extension with him and then trade him in that same offseason. However, that's only possible if the extension is no more than 2 years and 5% raises. So that means that basically if they sign him to the 3-year contract that Joe Cowley is reporting, that would remove the eligibility for the Bulls to be able to trade him this summer. And while that's not all that surprising, like if they're going to extend him, it probably means that they don't want to trade him. There would be a 6-month trade restriction, meaning they wouldn't be able to trade him until the soonest would be like right before the trade deadline. So I wanted to point that out. If we hear news that the Bulls are going to extend Vooch before the extension deadline on June 30th, assuming it's 3 years, which is what Joe Cowley is sort of hinting at here, they're not going to be able to trade him. And what that would look like is $23.1 million in year 1 and $24.25 million in year 2. If you exceed that number, he is not trade eligible for 6 months, which is kind of crazy to think that, like, you know, all things considered, the way that they finished last season, the way that he's played, the way that he's been sort of a scapegoat from the fans, the way that everybody wants him to get traded, that he would not only come back by his own free will, but also that the Bulls would sort of lock into him. And I don't want to say like long-term, but they would at least be hitching their wagon to Vooch for the next 6 months, and then they would look to trade him. The last piece of this, and then we can get into more of like how we feel about it, is the 3 years. 3 years obviously has an effect on the trade eligibility, which I just mentioned, but also I think there's an interesting way to look at this, which is that, you know, as we've talked about in the past, expiring contracts don't carry as much weight as they used to. I think teams are less interested in trading for expiring contracts. Maybe that changes again in the face of the new CBA, where you have these really strict punishments for teams that are above that second apron. But if teams are going to trade for a guy, they want to have him secured on their roster for at least, you know, 2 years before they enter free agency, so that they actually can get security out of trading for that player. And so I do think, you know, there's this, I think, debate that I'm having between like, if the Bulls sign him for 3 years, does he become a trade asset down the line, or does he just continue to lose value because he doesn't really seem to have any options right now? Again, that's why he's probably signing an extension with the Bulls as opposed to exploring potential options in free agency. And if he doesn't have a lot of options right now, and he does sign a big contract like this, and it is for 3 years, how does that affect his longer term trade value? I'm not sure that the Bulls or Vooch would go into a partnership with the understanding that they're going to trade him in the next 6 months or year. Obviously things change, and the Bulls are ultimately the ones that are going to be able to make that decision. But it is interesting to think about, well, does this make Vooch more or less tradable if they have him on a big contract, let's say $20 to $22 million a year for 3 years? Maybe there's a player option, maybe it's a team option on that third year, and that changes things. But I don't know. What do you think? Does 3 years make sense to you? How do you think it affects his trade value? What do you think it says about the Bulls' short-term aspirations?
It's weird because it's not something I'm over the moon about, but it's not something that I'm sad about either. Because I like Vooch. Like, the man is super consistent. It's hard for me to turn down a center who is going to play 82 games and get you almost close to a 20-10 while he's out there, while being a good centerpiece for your offense and how it's run, and also being the starting center on your a defense that was top 5. And he took a lot of shit, you know, for the defense that he played. But as you and I kept saying, you can't have a top 5 defense with a shitty center. Like, that doesn't exist. So he's obviously has some skill at that as well. Obviously, what throws you off is the age. Obviously, that's what kind of throws you off. And more so than it did for me personally than it did for DeMar DeRozan, because when I think of centers when they get older, it hurts. I think it hurts a little differently than a guard, getting older, because a guard can lose his athleticism but still have that shot. You see it with DeMar DeRozan, who was a very athletic guard when he came into this league. Now he's Mr. Mid-range, and he destroys you from there. So I'm curious how it works with Vooch. I haven't seen a decline per se in Vooch. I mean, his 3-point shooting probably, because I didn't expect him to shoot 40% again or something like that. But I did expect better than what he's been shooting. But he was average last season, so I don't want to get too hard on him. But I just want to know, and I'm worried about when that's coming. And hopefully it doesn't come for another 2 years. Because in my head, Will, this is a 2-year deal, not a 3-year deal. That's how I look at it. Because I think they're going to run that for another 2 years, and then they will be looking at making that kind of a trade. And when you're making that kind of trade after 2 years, depending on where he is, if he's still a viable center, which I think he will be, there's only 2 options for me then. You're getting traded to a team that's about to make a playoff run, or you're getting ready to a team that's about to end a playoff run, like in the middle of the season. So it's either one. There's no in between with that. You're not going to get him as a building block like the Bulls kind of did. So that's why I think it'll be 2 years, because I think after that, he'll still be viable for a team. I mean, hell, Mo Bamba made it to LA. So obviously Vooch can still be traded to a contender. So it's really weird. It's a weird place for me. In the end, Will, I think I'm okay with making the deal. I'm just not over the moon about making the deal, just because of the age that he is. And I'm curious to see what it hinders as far as the offense is concerned, because if Vooch is going to be here, that's a top either 2 or 3 on your team, no matter what. That's a top 2 or 3, because that's what he's being paid for. So if it's going to be Zach and him, or if it's going to be Zach, DeMar, and him, it's still going to be a top 2 or 3 on your squad. Is that going to hinder the growth of guys like Patrick Williams and guys like that, or even deeper than that, even guys like Justin Lewis? I don't know. I don't think it will, but it brings up those kind of questions for me.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a lot there, and I do want to operate under this assumption just for like hypothetical purposes here of what Cowley is reporting, which is the 3 years. So if the Bulls put 3 more years on his contract, DeMar is up after next year. You would have to assume that the most likely outcome is that they don't trade anybody, right? Like, you can't operate under the assumption that they're going to trade DeMar, they're going to trade Zach, because we just haven't heard that that's the case. So if the goal is to continue to be competitive with this core, which it sounds like that's what AK has said. That's what he said after that's what he said during his exit interviews, and everything that's been reported since is that the Bulls want to remain competitive. And if they sign Vooch to a 3-year extension and DeMar is up after this year, you'd have to also assume that they're probably going to extend DeMar for 2 additional years after this season when his deal is up. Because again, you can't just let these guys walk for nothing. I mean, you could, and I think there's, like I said last week, maybe there's an argument that you should do that, just to sort of like reset things and maybe use some of the other tools you have still operating underneath the tax. But if the Bulls bring back Vooch for 3 years and they're going to bring back DeMar for 2 after that to sort of line them up and end their free agency at the same time, I think you're looking at 3 more years of this core together. And to me, that's just like absurd. And we could always see trades down the line. We don't know like how that actually ends up going, but the idea that, you finish 40 and 42, you're super close to the cap. You have no draft picks to be able to improve internally. Patrick Williams is coming up on his extension, which I believe can be signed up until October. Otherwise, he enters restricted free agency. You've got Kobe, who's a restricted free agent, to double down on this core again. And not only that, but for 3 additional years. At some point, like, something's got to give. So I don't know that it would actually last that long. But for me to sit here and say, like, this is a good idea to keep going with these 30-something-year-olds, mid-30s guys, and Zach, after it's already not worked for 2 straight seasons, I think is just kind of crazy. And then going back to the point I made before, which is that, like, yes, maybe they are slightly more tradable because they have more years of service on their contract. they're also getting older. They're also getting less productive over time. They're also probably going to be more injury prone. I think it's highly unlikely that Vooch plays 82 and DeMar plays, 70, whatever he played again next year. Maybe they get like a slight boost in having the longer term contracts, but I think overall their trade value probably goes down the older they get. And so ultimately they are going to end up at a rebuild at some point or another. And whether that's in 3 years at the end of a potential extension for both Vooch and DeMar, or whether that's this summer when they decide to do it, they're headed that way anyway. And to wait until that point, to remain in this sort of middle ground of not only the NBA, but like the East, right? Like they're on the low end of teams in the Eastern Conference. I don't get what the aspirations are. I don't get the motivation, but it does seem like that's sort of the direction they're heading. And they could try to get out of this on their own terms by making a trade, and maybe that still happens. But if we're talking about extending Vooch for 3 years, and you've got Zach under contract, and you have all these limitations financially, it makes sense that they would try to keep going for it. And I wonder what is like the motivation behind that? What are the arguments for the front office to say, well, based on what we've seen now for the past 2 years, we expect things to get better and not worse?
Yeah, and I think a key statement you made was not running it back with two guys in their mid-30s, because like you said, he's not saying he has a problem with the guys and the age that they are, but it's the statement that he said after that was it didn't work. And that's the key point right there. So we've seen teams with those older players. We just saw the Warriors with it. Like we've seen this with older players, but usually it's teams that have those older players or teams that have made deep playoff runs.
Right. It's teams that have had success.
Had success. Correct. Simply had success. So to run it back like that without the success part is where we get like, we don't know. What the hell is this? That's where the confusion lets in. My logic brain won't let me accept them running this back again. Like I just simply can't. I have to see it. You got to show it to me before I can simply go full in on this team and say, what they deserve to hear if they want to run that back again with this full team that we saw. But I'm still in my head, like there's a move that's going to be made. And I still just truly believe that. I have to operate under that assumption of logic, because I'm like, you have to have seen what you've seen. Now, if there's a plan to bring in a super duper point guard that I don't know about, then okay, then I'll shut up, because I saw what this team looks like when you got a great point guard. But again, I don't see that. I don't see where that lies or where that happens for this squad. But bottom line for me is, yeah, I can't accept that in my brain right now. Maybe because I just simply don't want to accept that in my brain right now. But yeah, they can't sit there and straight just run this back after what we've seen. We've said that a million times during the season. After the season, we've said this a million times. So hopefully we don't see that.
The other thing is that, like, I kind of just laid out this whole potential future under the assumption that they bring not only Vooch back, but also DeMar. But that's not necessarily the case. I think a lot of people who are seeing this news or these rumors are getting frustrated because they think that bringing back Vooch means that they're going to run it back. And while I think that is the more likely outcome, I don't think it's the only outcome. Trading DeMar before he has to be extended, while he still has one more year on his contract, I think is probably the only way that you get out of this current group without, really setting yourself up for failure. And what I mean by that is that, you still have a chance to get something back, because if you don't extend DeMar before next year, then you're looking at having that asset just go away. And again, it's similar to Vooch. You're going to be with Kobe's extension, or new contract, I should say, with a potential Patrick Williams extension. The Bulls are still going to be an over the cap team. So they're not going to be able to just go out and sign a player with a max contract. At some point, Lonzo Ball's contract will come off the books, or maybe they'll apply for the disabled player exception, whatever it may be. But I think the more you continue to double down on this roster, the harder it gets to navigate, not easier, because you're investing more money. And I think the other piece is, is $20 million, $22 million, let's say, for Vooch, is that it's a smaller percentage of the cap, so it becomes a little bit easier. But Zach's contract is going up, not down. Patrick's going to get a big raise. Kobe's going to get a big raise. So it does become more difficult to keep building. And I think at some point, like I said, they're headed towards having to break up this big three or mid three or whatever you want to call them. And if they can do so while also getting back some assets before they actually lose these guys for nothing, I think that's obviously best case scenario. I think it's less likely, but I do think it's still on the table, even if they do bring Vooch back for an extension. So still very interesting stuff. I think the big takeaway for me is that Vooch will be on the roster at least for the first half of next year if they do come to this sort of extension. But again, who knows what that means long term? We can only make assumptions based on what their actions tell us about what their goals are. And if bringing the band back together, not trading these guys, and reinvesting in this group, that tells us what their aspirations are. It tells us what they're likely and not likely to do. And to me, that means that they're likely to keep trying to win with this group.
And more likely who they will be when they go into the season as well. We'll take a break right here. We come back. Like I said, the teacher will be in session, ladies and gentlemen. He wants to school everyone on what's going on with the CBA and the new rules and how that affects the Chicago Bulls. And big shout out to Biz Shorty, who just said he discovered this channel about a few seconds ago, and he immediately subscribed. So shout out to you, Biz Shorty, for discovering us, man. Appreciate you coming in. Hanging on out, sir. We here every day. So, and get ready for all of this awesomeness in your face constantly. All right, when we come back, we're going to get in the CBA. We're going to get in the game too. But first, let me tell you where you can get fitted out in the best sports gear around. Where's that? CHGO, of course. But also, you can get it at FOCO. You get the hoodies, shoes, the signs, the bobbleheads, and everything in betwixt. Because it's spring and it's baseball season. Did you see my White Sox? You see they finally got another series sweep? Did you see my man Jake Burger with the grand slam walk-off? Oh, that felt amazing, ladies and gentlemen. It feels good to talk about the White Sox in a positive way because last month in April sucked. Oh, it feels good, man. So make sure you get your Aloha shirt, your straw hats, your polos, your bags, and everything you're going to need for the game, whether you're going on the north side or you're going on the south side. FOCO is going to have you covered. And when we're on set, make sure you take a peek behind us. Don't just stare at all this awesomeness in your face. Look what's going on behind us as well, because FOCO has set us up with some awesome set decorations, man. Added some awesome pieces. So show them love because they show us love. Check out FOCO.com. Click on the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO. Get yourself 10% off at FOCO. For show.
Hey, Dave, want to help me tell people about our friends at ComEd?
Will, I've had a lot of dreams in my life, and this just might be out there near the top.
It's one of them.
It's at the top. It's up there. It's up there.
I could do it solo, but I figure why not get an assist man in there? I need some point guardsmanship.
Oh, come on with it. Tell me about ComEd, sir. Tell me about the energy efficiency program and how committed they are to helping families and businesses in the communities that they serve by helping manage energy usage and lowering energy bills. And they doing it now and into the future.
Dave, that is spot on. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers across all sizes of the territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial, kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
Well, that is all very intriguing. I don't know if you can answer this because is it possible that you could just tell me how this works?
I got you, dude. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include energy savings, estimated energy savings, cost savings, project cost, potential incentives, and simple payback. So if you own a business, don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
Wait, hold on. You said ComEd.com/poweringbiz?
Yes, sir. ComEd.com/poweringbiz. Schedule your appointment today.
Oh, I feel so fulfilled right now. That was my first time doing that. I feel really fulfilled. Thank you, Will, for allowing me to bask in that kind of greatness.
You're a natural. As of course you know.
But sir, I wanted to get it. You wanted to get it kind of into this because Joe Cowley had a little tidbit in his article that you wanted to touch on, and I'm going to read this quickly for you guys out there. This is the quote from his article. It's a dangerous mindset to have with the Bulls' current roster construction, especially with the new collective bargaining agreement on the horizon in a few years, designed to hamper quick turnarounds even more. Will, you wanted to talk about the new rules in this CBA and kind of touch on what Joe Cowley was talking about here and why it's designed to kind of hamper those turnarounds for the team and how that kind of affects the Bulls, sir.
Yeah. So the first thing that I wanted to mention, which is kind of what I talked about before with regards to Vucevic's potential extension here, is just like the percent of the cap that sort of deal could make up. So Mark at MK Hoops on Twitter posted this a couple of days ago, and I just wanted to go back and let you know because there was a piece that came out today that was sort of like estimating what a Patrick Williams extension might look like, and it was something like 5 years, $100 million, which would be about $20 million annually. And right now, that is like a little bit less than 18% of the salary cap. But in a couple of years, the way that the cap grows, it's actually going to be closer to 15% of the salary cap. So it doesn't really change things, but I think people get this idea that like the dollar value is stagnant because the cap is stagnant. So like, Derrick Rose signed like a 5-year, $94 million Rose Rule extension. Like they made an extension in the salary cap because of how good Derrick was so quickly. And that like completely, when Derrick was unable to play, that completely altered the way that the Bulls were able to build their roster because he took up 35% of the salary cap at $100 million. For Patrick, if he were making $100 million, that would only be like 15 or so. I think actually even less as a percentage of the salary cap. So that's something to keep in mind. And I think it's true for a Vucevic extension as well. A raise for him, if you think about it in terms of numbers, would be like 23 million. But if you think about it in terms of percent of the cap, it's actually like 25 million or 26 million. So that's something to keep in mind when you are seeing these numbers. Like they are going to look really bloated and inflated. And in terms of raw numbers, that's true. But that's like looking at things in terms of like total points scored as opposed to like points per game or, field goal percentage as opposed to like true shooting percentage. Like it's only part of the equation and it's only one way to look at it. So I think that's a big piece of it that I just wanted to point out. And like I said, Mark on Twitter, Vucevic on $22 million under the current cap is 17.8% of the current salary cap. And under the new cap, it would only be 16.4%. And each year that will go down because the salary cap will continue to increase. So that's something to think about. But in terms of the new CBA and how that works relative to any of these teams, I think it's going to become a lot harder to dump bad salary. And it's going to make it really important for you to, one, hit on your rookies. And I think draft picks and draft development is going to become really, really important because that's really cheap labor, basically, right? Like you're getting guys who can hopefully produce at a high level on cheap contracts. That allows you to spend up on your veterans. So if you can't do that, then you have to pay more for veterans to be productive and things get expensive quickly. And once things get expensive, like you look at the Clippers or the Warriors, for example, they're tens of $1 millions over the luxury tax and tens of $1 millions over the first and second apron, which, as we talked about there's going to be huge penalties for that. And that's going to include not being able to trade draft picks, like 3 years of frozen draft picks that you're not able to trade if you stay above the second apron for more than 1 year. That means not being able to trade 7 years out of draft picks, only 6. It means not being able to use the mid-level exception, which would mean like the Warriors couldn't have signed Dante DiVincenzo, which is like a huge blow. I mean, he was a huge part of that team this past season. So it just becomes really, really difficult to continue to spend money if you're that far over. And let's say that I'm the Spurs right now and I've got like $40 million in cap space. That means if there's a free agent out there that I wanted to give a max contract to, I could do that and just absorb them into my cap space. The other thing I could do with that cap space is help another team like the Warriors get out from under this really detrimental, punitive second apron, right? And so if the Warriors are $25 million above the second apron and they want to get right below it, what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to trade Andrew Wiggins or Jordan Poole into somebody's cap space. And let's say they really like Andrew Wiggins. They're more content to keep him. He makes them more productive. He fits a role, fits a need better than Jordan Poole. Let's say I'm the Spurs and I say, all right, I'll take Jordan Poole off your hands. We'll take his $25 million into our cap space. And, that'll help you guys get under the luxury tax. You won't have to pay these insane penalties and fees. But even though Jordan Poole is good, not a great player, good player, he's making a lot of money. So not only are we going to charge you the price of just giving us your player to get under the tax, you also have to give us a pick for us to be willing to take that money in. So now in this made up example, the Spurs are getting Jordan Poole and a draft pick just to help the Warriors get under the second apron so that they're not getting slammed with taxes. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And if the Bulls are above the salary cap, they're not going to be able to take teams' money in, which means, they're not going to be able to acquire draft capital in that sense. So it's just interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of teams start to realize what the penalties are, how to operate, what are the loopholes, how can they sort of maneuver relative to other teams in this new cap landscape. And I think one of the ways is taking on bad contracts. You've always been able to do that, but I think teams are going to be more willing to get off of their contracts just to get out from under these taxes. And I think if the Bulls keep accumulating these contracts, right now under the new landscape, like $20 million that Lonzo Ball has, that's not that bad. I mean, if Lonzo was able to play and he just wasn't good, it would be bad. Let's say Duncan Robinson. The Heat didn't play Duncan Robinson all year. He's making like $16-17 million. He's sitting on their books and pushing them really close to the luxury tax, and they're just not even playing him. So they could dump him, but like at least he can play.
Right.
Whereas Lonzo can't even play. So that $20 million is more detrimental. But my point is, as the cap gets bigger and bigger, that $20 million, that $17 million won't take up as big a chunk of the cap. But if you have a bunch of those contracts on your books, it's going to be impossible. And not only is it going to be impossible to build a good team, it's going to be impossible to get out of cap hell, basically, until those guys just come off your books naturally. Their contracts expire. So signing guys to good deals, not overpaying, and developing through the draft are going to be really, really, really important things in the next few years, basically until 2030 when this new CBA runs out. And the Bulls haven't really proven that they're going to be able to do either of those things well, right? Like they've relied on trading draft picks for productive players. They have not really been able to develop guys in the draft, even dating back to the Garpax era. They have to be really careful about the contract and the extensions that they start to give out. Percent of the cap, $20 million a year for Patrick Williams won't look that crazy, but you can't do that and also have $20 million in dead salary in Lonzo and $15 million on Kobe White if he's not producing at a high enough level. You can't also give 25 to Vooch and extend DeMar for 30. Like that's just going to get really bad really quick. And so, the one area where I think the Bulls did a good job, or the area I think they did the best job, was their salary cap. When they were putting this roster together, JJ Polk did a really good job, getting Caruso to come in on the mid-level, the sign-in trades for Lonzo And for DeMar, maneuvering all those things while staying under the luxury tax, but operating above the cap, it's going to be really hard to do that unless they really nail a bunch of draft picks. So just a point of caution as they think about these extensions. It's not just Vooch. DeMar's going to have to come up here. Patrick's going to have to come up here. Kobe's obviously already up. So they need to be careful with how they do this.
But quick for me, where do you think the Bulls are even with these new rules and the position that they're in? Like the contract you mentioned with Vooch that they'll sign. Let's say they don't give DeMar DeRozan this contract and, he just goes and he's traded away. But even Zach's contract, you mentioned it was going up, but that's still going to be a really awesome looking contract as it goes forward. But what does this mean, though, for the Bulls and their flexibility when they're moving forward in this offseason into the next?
Well, it just means they're going to have to be careful not to overpay these guys, especially Vooch and DeMar, who are already older. Zach, I mean, right now he's making like $40 million a year, which again seems crazy. It seems like a lot of money, but Jaylen Brown is eligible for the Supermax. He's going to be making $60 million. Exactly. Jason Tatum's going to be making 65. So Zach's contract is going to, it looks bad. And right now it is a high percentage of the cap, but as the cap continues to grow, that contract is going to continue to be a smaller percentage of the amount of money that they're able to spend, which makes him more and more tradable. Which also, if, for example, you're the Trailblazers and you want to trade that number 3 pick, trading for Zach, even though he's not necessarily a better fit than Jaylen Brown, think of them, as we talked about, as kind of like relatively the same caliber of player. Maybe Jaylen's a little bit better defensively. Maybe Zach's a little bit better at scoring in some capacity, however you want to shake it out. The Blazers won't have to pay in order to acquire Jaylen and also then pay him an exorbitant amount in a Supermax contract. So I think that's just something to keep in mind. But the Bulls, a lot of money does come off the books after Lonzo's contract and Caruso's contract, not after this upcoming season, but after the following one, after the 24-25 season, DeMar's will be up as well. So they are in position to be able to open up a ton of cap space after 2024-25. But the more they're extending these contracts, the more they're handing out money, the harder that's going to be able to get for them.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate the knowledge. I hope you all are smarter class for what Professor Gottlieb has just taught you today. Before we get out of here, definitely have to talk about game 2 and what occurred. The Heat tied the series 111-108 in a thriller. The Heat went into the fourth quarter down 8, and then Duncan Robinson just lost his mind for a while and brought that team all the way back. And then the Nuggets made a valiant comeback in the last few seconds of the game, only to miss the game tying 3 by Jamal Murray, who had a really good look, just didn't go down for him. Will, did this change anything for you? Because I know you had them at 5. Did this change anything for you, or is it still Nuggets in 5 for you?
I think the fact that they won in Denver, getting one of those 2 games is a big deal. Yeah. It's not like they just went down 0-2 in really ugly fashion and now we're heading back to Miami where hopefully they'll get one of them. Like they went out and took home court, and I think that was really impressive. It required a ton of super hot shooting, both from the perimeter and in the mid-range. Bam was going nuts in both game 1 and 2 from like 8 to 12 feet. But I don't think it changes anything in terms of like who I expect to be winning the title. But there's just something about this Heat team. And again, I can't help but compare them to the Bulls. Their ability to come out on the other end of adversity, their resilience, their ability to withstand runs, their ability to come back from down big and just keep chipping away, keep coming at you. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's like, I don't think I've ever seen this sort of performance throughout the course of a whole postseason. Like you talk about teams that come back from down 3-1 or down 3-0, like the Celtics or like the Heat in 2015 or 16, whenever it was, coming back from down 3-1 in the finals. That's like insane for a series. But I just feel like this Heat team has done it the entire playoffs. Just not even just like going down in terms of like games in a series, but just throughout the course of a game, withstanding runs, coming back from down big within games. Their ability to just keep moving forward is truly special to me.
Yeah, I loved the adjustments that the Heat made. Eric Spoelstra, again, brilliant coach. One, putting Kevin Love out there in the lineup. Even though he had 6 points and 10 rebounds, that's still 10 damn rebounds in 22 minutes. That still helps your team. That puts another shooter out there on the floor for your squad, and make sure that you don't see Cody Zeller pretty much ever again during this entire series. So I thought that was great. I thought their transition defense was much improved as well. The Nuggets already had a good transition defense, but I really thought Miami's transition defense was much improved, man. And they definitely neutralized, I would say, Aaron Gordon's like deep seal. You know, like they avoided like those cross matches, and they were able to do that. You know, and that was brilliant because they really completely took him out of the game, and that was a big thing. I love the way they did Bam as well. Like they kind of kept him more as a facilitator than they did as a scorer. And so that allowed just the shooters around him, you know, to have more open looks for it. And Bam, I thought, just played a great game. Honestly, you're not going to match 41, 11, and 4, but I thought his performance, he really did a solid job with that. I think he had like 21, 10, and 4, something like that. I don't remember, but I just really thought he did a great job, man. And they were very disruptive for the Nugget shooters. Michael Porter Jr., I mean, he's truly got to get it together, Will. Like, he is 3 of 17 from 3 in these 2 games. Like, that's horrific. And if he just has a regular game, they win this game in that fashion. But like you said, Miami is resilient. They had that Miami game. I was waiting for them to have their game. They had it. They shot almost, again, 50% from 3, which is ridiculous. Not something I'll expect to continue, but it's something that we've seen the entire playoffs from them. So, you know, it's going to happen. The one thing I will say, though, is I still haven't seen Denver have that Denver game. I still haven't seen it yet. And in these 2 games, they won 1 and they came close to winning 1. They still haven't had that we're the best team in the league game. And I've seen them have one every single series. So I'm waiting to see when that occurs for them. But I still think they're in good position. I have them winning this, but shout out to the Heat for walking in and doing something nobody's been able to do this entire playoffs. And that's getting a win at home against the Denver Nuggets, man. So great win, great performance all around by them, man. And definitely looking forward to game 3, Will.
And I think the last thing I like what you talked about in terms of the adjustments that Spo made. And I think it just proves that he'll not only be able to make the adjustments, but be able to do it every game. And at every time the Nuggets are able to, you know, figure out a new way to score or, you know, a new strategy, Spo's going to be there ready to neutralize it the next game. And I'm really curious to see what Mike Malone draws up for this upcoming game 3, to try to counter the counters. And that's really where these playoff series get exciting. But I'll say this, like, you know, with regards to the Heat's hot shooting, this is not like an 82 game season anymore. This is a best of, you know, three game series, right? Like it's there. Who's the first of 3 games? And that means that like variance is going to come into play. It means that one hot shooting night can swing the series even further. I think that's kind of what already happened, but each of these games is an opportunity, and the fewer games they have left, the more variance can shake things one way or another. And I think the Heat are going to continue to shoot a ton of threes. I don't expect the Nuggets to shoot as poorly as they did, especially like you said, Michael Porter Jr. But, you know, as a team, only 28 threes. I would imagine that goes up. I just think like we're at this point where anything can happen. These playoff series are wild. Every game could swing the course of it. Every, you know, 8-0 run could swing the course of a game, or a quarter, which swings the course of a game, which swings the course of the series. It's just everything matters so much in every possession, and they're really coming down to it here. So I hope that this series goes 6 or 7. I think that would obviously be the most fun for everyone. But man, the Heat, they just keep doing what everybody says they can't.
There it is right there, man. Keep doing what everybody says they can't. Just like Will said, I couldn't host this show. These are jokes. These are jokes, ladies and gentlemen. That's all they are, jokes. Man, thank y'all for checking us out. Thank y'all for enjoying what we're doing over here, man. We will be back tomorrow with another brand new show. Matt Peck will be back in effect doing his thing with us as well. Make sure you follow us on the social medias at CHGO Bulls, at Will_Gottlieb, at BAWL Sports. Kevin, what can they follow? What can they follow you, Kevin, man? I never know your handle, bro. What can they follow you at?
You can
even if you're on social media. I don't even know if you are.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. Give me a follow at Wells15Kevin.
How many followers you got, man?
Like 950. I'm not even at 1,000. Give me 1,000.
The chase.
Let's get them to a G.
A race to 1K.
To a G, that'd be great.
We'll help you get to 1K if you play for us tonight.
Oh boy. Now that put that in my contract and I'll play.
Well done, GOAT.
Yeah,
that's why he's the GOAT,
boys.
ladies and gents. Well done, man. Thank y'all for joining us. And make sure you guys get your DraftKings going on. Use that code CHGO and join America's top-rated sportsbook. Download that app. And like I said, use that promo code CHGO when you sign up. We'll see you guys tomorrow. On behalf of the GOAT, Will Gottlieb, I'm Big Dave, y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.